We're having a commotion right now here in America, and it's really sad because it just proves how divided that our great country is whenever we can't even pull together in the benefit of survival, in the benefit of the betterment of the good. It just proves how mixed up, confused, disoriented, deranged, delusional that people have become here in the United States. So if you don't mind, please listen to this. It may get to you a little bit, so I warn you, whenever he's talking about severe things. He's talking about realistical things. The President of the United States is talking about things that most people don't ever want to talk about until it's too late to talk about it.
So at the same time, they have to be mindful of the greater public health good, even if it requires asking Americans who have already done so much to do a little bit more to try to get through this together. And we hear from Biden all the time saying, don't ever bet against America. This is another moment where he's asking people to step up and be patient yet again.
David Plouffe, you alluded to Mitch McConnell's, you didn't say it, but I think this is what you're talking about. I've been asking about this on the other side because Mitch McConnell has had a real public pivot on his messaging. Let's listen to the president first.
Good afternoon. Today I want to talk to you about COVID-19. Maybe the best way to start is in a significant part of the country, you wouldn't have to take one of these off. You don't have to put one on. Like in my home state of Delaware, where I live in Newcastle County, where I was yesterday in Pennsylvania, because people got vaccinated. They got vaccinated. They don't need a mask when the vast majority of people got vaccinated. Look, I want to talk about what's really happening, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and what we need to do this week and the months ahead. For a moment I was elected, I said I'd always give it to you straight from the shoulder. We need some straight talk right now, because there's a lot of fear and misinformation in the country. We need to cut through it with facts, with science, with the truth. So, what's really happening today? After months and months of cases going down, we're seeing a spike in COVID cases. They're going up. Why? Because of this new form, this new variant called the Delta variant. This is a much different variant than the one we dealt with previously. It's highly transmissible, and it's causing a new wave of cases in those who are not vaccinated. Our experts tell me that cases will go up further before they start to come back down. But while cases are on the rise, we're not likely to see, according to experts, a comparable rise in hospitalizations or deaths in most areas of the country. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because 164 million Americans are fully vaccinated, including 80% of the most vulnerable, are seniors. So there's a challenge, as you knew there could be. But there's also good news. We've spent the last 6 months preparing for this possibility. The vaccines are highly effective. We have enough vaccine for everyone to get vaccinated. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan and the hard work of the American people, we've administered over 325 million vaccinations doses in the past 6 months. We have the tools to prevent this new wave of COVID from shutting down our businesses, our schools, our society, as we saw happen last year. I've said from the beginning that we will be guided by the science. So here's what the science tells us. On Tuesday, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, announced its new mask recommendation in parts of the country where COVID cases are substantially higher, where people didn't get vaccinated, which they define as 50 new cases for every 100,000 people in a week. The CDC recommends you wear a mask when you're in public and indoors, like work or in a grocery store. That's true for both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. Why? Because even if you've been fully vaccinated and protected from severe illness from COVID-19, You could have the Delta variant in your system and spread it to someone who isn't vaccinated. You need to wear a mask to protect each other and to stop the rapid spread of this virus as we work to get more people vaccinated. And I hope all Americans who live in areas with substantial or high cases rates will follow the mask guidance that's being laid down by the CDC. I certainly will, and I have, because this is one of those areas in Washington. And at my decision, my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same thing. As I said from the beginning, a mask is not a political statement. It's about protecting yourself and protecting others. Masking is one defense against the spread of COVID-19. Make no mistake, vaccines are the best defense against you getting severely ill from COVID-19. The very best defense. And you want to know how we put this virus behind us? Well, I'll tell you how. We need to get more people vaccinated. Look, and it's important to understand what vaccines do and what they don't do.
I want to stop right here and weigh in on what he's talking right here about. I agree with President Biden that people need to take the vaccination shot. Ever since I was young enough to remember, I've had needles stuck in me. I've had knives put on me. I've had various things that was associated with the medical or scientific community ever since I've come into this world. I realize that a lot of people don't believe in science. I realize that. But I guarantee you this, if you're out there on the interstate somewhere and you're involved in a major accident and you're tore up, broken up, busted up, I don't know of nobody that denies medical attention or help at the time whenever the ambulance and the first responders pull up to check everything out. Nobody denies medical, scientific help when they actually need it. This is the same thing as being involved in an accident. Right now, President Biden is saying, we need this. We got to have this if we're going to maintain any type of structure as far as society getting halfway back like it is. This is what they're telling us. Even at the expense of going out of your way and getting a shot, and even if you have to remain vigilant towards masking up. I realize a lot of people don't believe in science. But there's also another hidden factor that the president is not addressing to the people pertaining to disguises. Whenever people put on masks, you're basically disguising their identity. And that means if they get out here and kill you or me, the odds of them being caught, even if a camera is going and captures them on digital video form with them wearing a mask, it's going to make it much, much more difficult to be able to identify the villain that committed the act. We are caught right now in between a hard place and a rock. I strongly believe that the current president of the United States right now is giving out some of the best advice that he can give from a medical, scientific perspective. Now, on a social perspective, pertaining to the mass murders and the crime that's being committed all over this country, that's a complete, total different issue. But it's clashing with the primary issue pertaining to the COVID pandemic of those who haven't been vaccinated, because that many more people now are committing crimes just wearing masks. There's another issue that I don't know if the president's going to discuss or not, pertaining to all these people last year that wanted to defund the police forces. I never was for defunding the police forces, because I'm smart enough to identify that if you do that, you're sure enough letting your guard down. I think a lot of these police forces need to be reformed. I think a lot of these police unions need to step up to the plate as far as accountability issues, more so than what they have in the past. But at the same time, I've got my harsh feelings against being involved in the political ring, in the political circuit, to the point that you become immune. That if you commit a crime, you may get punished to some degree, but you're not going to get punished like you would if you wasn't involved in politics. I think it should be just the other way around myself. That if you practice law, you need to abide by the law. If your career is a judge towards judging people that break the law, and then you get out here and break the law, I feel like that the penalty ought to be steeper for those who are practicing the law or who are trying to teach others to practice the law. This country's got it just the opposite. They got it turned around to the point that the judges, the senators, the congressmen, the state representatives, anybody that's voted on, all the way down to the dog catcher, I guess, that if they make a mistake, regardless whether it's intentionally or non intentionally, if they make a mistake, they don't have to worry about being persecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because the law basically immunized those people to the point that they're not going to get the harsh penalty that they would if they wasn't involved in being in political affairs. It'd be the same thing as the dog catcher. Okay, let's just use this for a freaky illustration. Let's say the dog catcher worked for the city for years and years and years, and all of a sudden the dog catcher had a big kennel at home and had 25 or 30 dogs. And all of a sudden he let them all loose. Just let every one of them loose. Let them run wild. They was not only running in the suburban areas, but in the city areas. And all these dogs were just running wild. And once you find out who the animals belong to, it belonged to the animal catcher that worked for the city that people voted on. Don't you think that guy should receive a harsher penalty if he was to do something like that, hypothetically speaking, towards letting out all the dogs on all the people? He's the one that's supposed to be in charge of catching the dogs, not letting them loose. It works the same way with a judge that's practicing or telling people or punishing people that break the law, or people that supposedly make the laws or practice the laws. To me, the system is in fact turned upside down, as Donald J. Trump made mention of, that it's rigged. And the way that it's rigged is that these people that stand in behind the political arena could possibly be doing that for that particular reason. In other words, their motives to become a mayor of this or that, even a dog catcher, could actually be so that once I get that entitlement, I'm basically protected. Kind of like diplomatic immunity. I still stand firm that Mr. Biden is doing his best towards trying to get this great nation and the world back on the right track. But I still stand firm in stating that if you don't attack the fundamentals of the spiritual man pertaining to the soul of man or mankind, you're just beating your head against the wall, because Jesus said, do not concentrate on cleaning the outside of the cup, but concentrate on cleaning the inside of the cup. Why did Jesus say that? He said to clean the soul, the mind, the heart of man, or mankind, and the outside would clean up itself. Eventually, you'll make enough mistakes in life and you'll figure out that God didn't intend for you to live that way as a Christian, and you'll eventually get away from whatever activity that you're involved in, because the Holy Spirit would teach you and He would chastise you. That's the Father that's bringing retribution into your life some way or another, because He wasn't pleased in mine or your actions. That's how God works. That's how the Holy Spirit works. And He doesn't do it out of love. He doesn't do it out of hate. He does it out of love. He does it out of love. He does it because He loves us. And He don't want to see us continue to put our hand against the hot burning iron or the hot burning stove to where we get burnt again and again and again and again and again. There's a reason why God gave us a conscience. There's a reason why God gave us a memory, so that we can remember, hey, that hurt the last time I touched that stove. Well, then don't touch it again, dummy. Leave it alone. It's a fictitious fable. It's nothing but a lie from the pits of hell. Whenever somebody tells you, if you've forgiven them, you're supposed to forget what they done. I don't think so. I'm never going to forget what my enemies, my adversaries have done, either against me or that didn't support me, that should have supported me, towards what they done that they didn't do. I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that. You know why? Because I know now what to expect out of those same people, unless they have a 180-degree turn. Now, if they have a 180-degree turn and they come to me and they say, Dennis, we're sorry, man. We shouldn't have said that. We shouldn't have done that. We should have participated in that. We should have helped you in that. Then the whole thing gets wiped out, and then we're going to start all over again. And I'm not saying that I'm holding grudges or sharpening the axes, which a lot of people probably think that's what I'm doing. But no, there's a purpose for you having a memory, for you having a consciousness. And that purpose is called survival. And if somebody tells you that you're not supposed to have a memory and remembering how people burnt you, hurt you, messed you up, messed your life up, messed your mind up, then odds are you're probably going to repeat it again and again and again, because you're having a tendency of forgetting that in which what caused the devastation to begin with. Let's listen to the president once more. He's trying to do his best in, I guess the right word would be, eradicating this disease that has caused so much havoc in not only our economy, but caused so much havoc in people's lives, towards people dying. There's people dying right now, or has died just within the past year and a half since all this has broken out, that we never would have dreamed of towards dying. But once more, we don't have control of death, other than trying to prevent death from occurring as quickly as it's occurring. It's the same thing as we don't have control over a storm that's coming our way, that the newscasters gets on TV and says it's predominantly dangerous. We know that it's probably got a tornado in it. Seek shelter immediately. Well, we can't stop the storm. We can't stop the tornado. We can't aim some sort of a radar gun at the tornado as it's coming out of the sky and stopping it. But what we can do is prevent and try to spare and save our lives towards hunkering down, getting in a storm cellar, or getting in a bathtub, or getting in a ditch, or doing something. It's the same way with the COVID. The same way with COVID. People that are intentionally not getting the shot, as far as I'm concerned, they're not paying attention to the newscaster that's telling them, seek shelter. It's an advisory. It's a warning. Seek shelter. There's something coming down the pike. Well, if you don't listen to the warnings and you wind up getting sick and dying, whose fault is it? It's not going to be his fault, the man that we're listening to right there, because he's telling you what to do before the storm cloud ever gets your way, that maybe it won't be so bad if you do happen to get it. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to save you. He ain't trying to destroy you. He's trying to preserve you.
Put simply, the vaccines are designed to save lives and prevent severe illness. They're highly effective at both. 190 million Americans have had at least one shot. Of that group, about 90% are done now, and 10% are waiting for the second shot. To those folks who have one shot, but not the second, go get the second shot. Even if you're overdue for the second shot, it's not too late. Go get the second shot now. The bottom line is, if you're fully vaccinated, you're highly protected from COVID-19. But I also know that many of you who are vaccinated are concerned about what...
It's the same thing as jumping off into that storm cellar, or getting in that bathtub, or getting in the interior room of your house. You know that the clouds are brewing, and you know that the storm is coming, so take the preventions of it being so devastating in your life. You can always rebuild your house. You can always replace your car, but you can't replace you. That's what the president is trying to tell us here. He's trying to make it to the point that it's not as devastating. I realize a lot of people don't agree with science. A lot of people don't go along with science. But also realize that there's been a bunch of hoopla, a bunch of lies about this COVID shot, towards it having chips, and it's going to cause the government to keep track with you, or there's membranes that's come from an abortion clinic that has helped to create this vaccination shot. There's all kinds of hoopla out there that, as far as I'm concerned, is the works of the devil, because the Bible says that Satan is the author of confusion, and he's out to kill, steal, and destroy. And as many people as Satan can destroy, either through COVID or other means, he's going to do it, because that's his job. That's what he does. And here lately, he's been pretty daggum good at it. I hate to pat the devil on the back towards becoming the devil's advocate, but the bottom line is this: the devil has been working overtime towards out killing, stealing, and destroying people's lives. The President of the United States is trying to prevent that. He's trying to stop that. And if people don't agree with that, well then, guess what? You're on your own. But the bad thing about being out on your own is that now you're endangering, you're jeopardizing other people's lives. So now it reaches to another level. It's kind of like drinking and driving. You know, just because you can handle one beer don't mean that you can handle two. Just because you can handle two beers don't necessarily mean you can handle three. Best thing to do is leave alcohol completely alone while you're under the wheel, or any type of influences pertaining to marijuana or drugs or anything else. Leave it alone while you're out there on the road. Because I guarantee if you get caught up in some sort of accident, it don't matter if it's minor or big, they're going to check you out thoroughly to see what's in your system. They no longer just do just a breathing test to see if you've been drinking. 9 times out of 10, they'll draw blood, and they'll figure out what's in your system. They can tell for the last 6 months if you've been a persistent pot smoker by taking samples out of your hair. You're not going to fool science. And quit trying to fool yourself. That's the main thing. Stop lying to yourself.
It's called breakthrough cases. Yes, some fully vaccinated people will still test positive, and some will show some symptoms of COVID-19. That's expected with almost every vaccine there is for other diseases. But breakthrough cases remain rare, and almost all are mild cases. In fact, virtually all hospitalizations and deaths are among the unvaccinated. I also know many of you are wondering if you need a booster shot to add another layer of protection. As of now, my medical advisors say the answer is no. No American needs a booster now. But if the science tells us there's a need for boosters, then that's something we'll do. We've purchased the supply, all the supply we need to be ready if that was called for. Folks, the truth is, as more people get vaccinated, we are better protected as a nation to continue reopening safely and responsibly. We are not fully out of the woods yet, because what is happening in America right now is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Let me say that again. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. There are about 90 million Americans who are eligible to get the shot, but haven't gotten it yet. As I just mentioned, nearly all of the cases, hospitalizations, and deaths due to COVID-19 today are from unvaccinated people. Last month, a study showed that over 99% of COVID-19 deaths had been among the unvaccinated. 99%. This is an American tragedy. People are dying and will die who don't have to die. If you're out there unvaccinated, you don't have to die. Read the news. You'll see stories about unvaccinated patients in hospitals. As they're lying in bed dying from COVID-19, they're asking, "Doc, can I get the vaccine?" The doctors have to say, "Sorry, it's too late." Right now, too many people are dying or watching someone they love dying and saying, "If I just got vaccinated, if I just." It's heartbreaking. And it's complicated even more because it's preventable. America's divided between the majority of eligible people who are vaccinated and those who are not. And I understand that many of you in the majority are frustrated with the consequences of the failure of the minority to get vaccinated. But I want you to know I'm going to continue to do everything I can to encourage the unvaccinated to get vaccinated. That includes addressing hesitancy and misinformation head on. For example, I know some of you who are unvaccinated think the development of vaccine was rushed, therefore I'm not going to take a chance. As a result, I think it's not safe because it was rushed. I understand. But let me explain. Our top scientists, the National Institute of Health, the NIH, and across the country, got to work applying decades of research. Decades of research. I'm going to repeat that. Decades that had already been done, the research, to develop the COVID-19 vaccine when it hit. In the last 6 months, more than 325 million doses of the vaccine have been administered in the United States, and billions of doses administered around the world. The vaccine was developed and authorized under a Republican administration, and it's been distributed and administered under a Democratic administration. The vaccines are safe, highly effective. There's nothing political about them. Look at all the people who took a shot at it. Later we learned a lot of them had already been vaccinated. From the start, I have to compliment Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He hadn't made it political. He's encouraged people to get vaccinated and continuing to do so, and his state's in pretty good shape. Alabama Republican Governor Kay Ivey recently spoke out to encourage vaccination, and even the commentators on facts who have been belittling this for a long time, some haven't, but many have, are arguing get vaccinated. Look, this is not about red states and blue states. It's literally about life and death. It's about life and death. That's what it's about. You know, and I know people talk about freedom. What I learned growing up in school and my parents, with freedom comes responsibility. Your decision to be unvaccinated impacts someone else. Unvaccinated people spread the virus. They get sick and fill up our hospitals. And that means if someone else has a heart attack or breaks a hip, there may not be a hospital bed for them. If you're unvaccinated, you put your doctor and nurses at risk The same frontline essential workers who put their lives on the line over the past year and have gone through hell. Again, with freedom comes responsibility. So please, exercise responsible judgment.
You're responsible out on the road towards maintaining a good safe record. If you are steadily bumping into things, having minor wrecks, if you cannot control your lead foot towards having a bunch of speeding tickets, eventually that privilege will be taken from you, because it is expected for you to be a responsible adult or even a minor learning to drive. It is expected for you to be a responsible driver out on the road. If we didn't have responsible drivers out on the road, could you only imagine how many wrecks that we would have to be engaged in on a day-to-day, everyday level? You think the wrecks are bad now towards people not paying attention and playing with their phone, and somebody snuck up on their right lane or left lane and they hit their brakes and just didn't have time to stop because they was going too fast or whatever? Could you only imagine if we didn't have that criteria set up to where if you didn't maintain a safe driving record, either your driver's license got pulled or they stuck you in jail? One or the other. If you continue to keep doing the same thing again and again and again towards making everybody's life, putting everybody's life in jeopardy, eventually the law, if they can't control you by ticketing you, they'll control you by putting you in jail, because you're not maintaining a safe environment out on the road. Well, how come this is any different? Why is this pick and choose, tick for tack, towards some of us is going to do it and some of us ain't? Once more, united we stand, divided we fall. If we're divided in medical procedures as drastic as COVID, do you really think we're ever going to pull together on trivial issues? Something has happened to the American people. They have been bewitched. They're under some sort of a spell. They need to be chemically induced, or the chemicals that they've taken, they need to go through some sort of rehab. Something has happened to the American people, because the American people no longer pull together like they used to pull together back years and years ago. One last final thing I want to say, and I'm going to leave it at this and let the president say what he wants to say. If our ancestors, as horrible as it was and as horrible as it may have looked like at the time going through what we went through, if they didn't pull together during World War II towards unifying against an adversary, do you really think today we would be celebrating what we celebrate as far as our freedoms? No, we would not. A matter of fact, we would liable to meet our sheriff, our judges, or whoever was in control of our lives out on the streets and have to raise our hand and salute them like Hitler, Hi Hitler. And we would all be speaking German if the people in that era did not pull together. It was an ugly scene. It was one that I'm sure nobody wanted to go through voluntarily. But they pulled together and they done the right thing. That's what this man here, Mr. Biden, is trying to make a principal point to not only the people in America, but the people throughout the world, that it comes a time that you have to step up to the plate and become a responsible person, regardless whether you're an adult or you're not an adult. There are certain things we can fudge on. There are certain things we make and laugh and have a lot of humor on. But there's other things you don't break the mold. You don't go against the grain. And when you do, you pay the ultimate price. That's one of the reasons why we're seeing what we're seeing right here in the United States pertaining to all the crime, all the suicides, all the drug overdoses, all our politics being pulled in 1,000 different directions, having almost 3 million people incarcerated in jails, is because the people during the Reagan and the Bush administration in the late 80s did not unify in coming together as they were supposed to pertaining to biblical Bible prophecy. And they wanted to cover it up. They wanted to hide it. They wanted to abolish it some way or another, like it was just going to up and go away. And there were certain state officials right here in this county and the county around here, the counties around here, that took part of this movement that has jeopardized us where we are right now, that's put not only the adults in peril, but now also the children. They have failed the American people. They have allowed for this storm to get up on top of us, and because they didn't listen to the flagman or the watchman on the wall that was telling them, it's coming, the British is coming, the British is coming. Because they didn't listen, now they're suffering untold circumstances that goes beyond some people's imagination, including my own. Because if they would have maintained a movement, a spiritual movement, like they should have had, that was going on in the late 80s, now the shepherd has been stricken and the sheep has went astray. And now everybody is pulling in 50,000 different directions. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Not enough chiefs and too many Indians. That's what has put us where we are. Because good, sound people with good minds that could interpret the Bible correctly chose not to do it. Chose to wash it away, whitewash it, sweep it under the rug, and thinking that hopefully this man that is proclaiming all these things, maybe he'll either shut up or he'll die. Maybe his bad health will get the best of him and he'll just lay down and die. I couldn't tell you the amount of people that would want me to die right now as I speak. They would give their arm. They would give their eye teeth if I was to take a gun right now and take a bullet in my own life. And I've never done nothing to them. All I've tried to do is help them. And I'm talking about rich farmers. I'm talking about rich farmers' children that is raised up around here that knows me. They have got animosity against me because of the environment that they themselves or their parents have created. Everybody's got to have a whipping post other than themselves. We got to blame everybody else, but let's not take the heat. Let's not take the heat for what's happened here. That's where we are right now. That's where we are right now as a society that nobody wants to be accountable. The weekly county judicial system up here wants you to be held accountable if you make a mistake, or if you break the law, or if you get caught speeding, or if you do this or do that. They want to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law, but yet now whenever you find dirt on them towards what that they have either done or what they should have done that they didn't do, do you hear any of them standing up and volunteering saying, we was wrong, we made a mistake? No, sir. That's the hypocrisy in the people that's in control pertaining to the baby boomers that's still in control to this day. We've got a sheriff that's been inaugurated 9 different times in Weakley County, 25 or 30 years, and doesn't have the decency to look around and say, wow, maybe it's because of my administration that has caused so many people's lives to be destroyed in the very county that I'm supposed to be protecting and governing as a sheriff. But yet now he keeps running. People keep putting him in power. I don't think he's going to run this time because I think he's too old. I think he's become feeble to the point he can't see good, can't hear good, can't drive good. But if it was up to the citizens of this county, they'd keep him in there because they've become part of his cronies. And because you're one of his cronies, that means if you do get caught doing something, they'll out of sight, out of mind. They'll act like no, you wasn't involved in that affair. But then again, there's people like me in this same county that they look down upon already. That if I so much as step on a wooden nickel, they're coming at me with a whip. They're going to put me on a cross and crucify me. You call that justice? Like Donald Trump said, the system is polluted. It's rigged. You got the wealthy people that can afford attorneys. You got the people that can't afford attorneys. You got two different judicial justice systems. That's just within the people itself. Then you got another judicial justice system of those that's involved with the system pertaining to political immunity. You got three different systems running at the same time here in America. Some gets burnt, some gets hurt, some gets away with murder, and some just basically struggles from day to day. You think this is what our ancestors intended for us to do? Do you really think that Abraham Lincoln intended for our affairs to be like they are, going back into the movement of the 60s, pertaining to what went on with the blacks and what went on with the Native American people? Do you really think that our founders intended for this to be this way? I don't think so. Let's let Mr. Biden finish off his spiel. Good luck to all of us as we always end our message in telling people shalom.
Get vaccinated for yourself, for the people you love, for your country. I'm being literal when I say this. As I travel the world almost every day, a foreign leader calls me asking, can I provide his or her country more vaccines? There are people who are desperate for vaccines. I'm doing everything to answer those calls. We're sending millions of vaccines to people around the world. But folks, it's an American blessing that we have vaccines for each and every American.
Exactly.
We've made it our first and top priority to have available vaccines for every eligible American, and that's never going to change as long as I'm here. It's a shame. It's just such a shame to squander that blessing.
It's a disgrace.
That's why after 6 months of extraordinary work and effort, today I'm laying out additional steps we should be taking to deliver these life-saving vaccines to more Americans. First, we're going to provide more incentives to encourage unvaccinated Americans to get vaccinated. That starts with paid leave to get the shot. We're still hearing that people are unable to get time off from their employer to get vaccinated. Well, this is unacceptable. For some time now, I've said you should be able to get the shot and still get paid. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, the federal government is fully reimbursing any small or medium-sized business that provides workers with paid time off to get vaccinated. Employers, this costs you nothing. If you haven't given employees paid time off, do it now, please. Today, I'm announcing we're taking this a step further. The federal government will now reimburse those employers to give their staffs time off, not only to get themselves vaccinated, but also to get their family members vaccinated. That means employers can get reimbursed if they give parents time off with paid time, paid leave to take their kids or their own parents to get vaccinated. So I'm calling on all employees across the country to give paid time off to get the shot or to help a family member do so. I promise you, it will cost you, the employer, nothing. You'll be reimbursed. Secondly, I'm announcing that we'll continue to work with states to encourage unvaccinated people to get vaccinated. In February, the grocery store chain Kroger's offered $100 to their associates if they would get vaccinated, and it worked. Vaccination rates move up from 50% to 75% among their employees. States like New Mexico, Ohio, and Colorado are offering similar incentive programs that have helped increase vaccination rates. So today, I'm calling on all states and local governments to use funding they have received, including from the American Rescue Plan, to give $100 to anyone who gets fully vaccinated. I know that paying people to get vaccinated might sound unfair to folks who've gotten vaccinated already. But here's the deal. If incentives help us beat this virus, I believe we should use them. We all benefit if we can get more people vaccinated. In addition to providing incentives to encourage vaccination, it's time to impose requirements on key groups to make sure they're vaccinated. Excuse me. Just this week, we took an important step to protect our veterans. Like many civilian hospital systems are doing, the Department of Veterans Affairs will now require COVID-19 vaccines for doctors and nurses and other healthcare workers who provide medical care for our veterans. We must do everything possible to protect our veterans from getting COVID when they come to get medical care they so richly earned serving their country. We owe them. Next, since many vaccinations are required for active duty military today, I'm asking the Defense Department to look into how and when they will add COVID-19 to the list of vaccinations our armed forces must get. Our men and women in uniform who protect this country from grave threats should be protected as much as possible from getting COVID-19. I think this is particularly important because our troops serve in places throughout the world, many where vaccination rates are low and disease is prevalent. Next, every federal government employee will be asked to attest to their vaccination status. Anyone who does not attest or is not vaccinated will be required to mask no matter where they work, test 1 or 2 times a week to see if they've acquired COVID, socially distance, and generally will not be allowed to travel for work. Likewise, today, I'm directing my administration to take steps to apply similar standards to all federal contractors. If you want to do business with the federal government, get your workers vaccinated. Look at the Chamber of Commerce, representing tens of thousands of American businesses, the National Association of Manufacturers, the Business Roundtable, which comprises of the largest and biggest corporations in America. They're all applauding the actions the federal government is taking, and I urge them to follow suit. I also commend the National Football League, that has announced that if there are outbreaks among unvaccinated players and personnel, then the team risks forfeiting games. I urge other sport leagues at every level to take every step they can. Every day, more businesses are implementing their own vaccine mandates. The Justice Department has made it clear that it is legal to require COVID-19 vaccines. We all want our lives to get back to normal. And fully vaccinated workplaces will make that happen more quickly and more successfully. We all know that in our gut. With incentives and mandates, we can make a huge difference and save a lot of lives. I also want to speak to families with children in school. We can and we must open schools this fall, full time. It's better for our children's mental and emotional well-being, and we can't afford another year out of the classroom. Every school should be open. We're giving them the tools to be able to do so safely. Even in those areas where they have a higher vaccination, they have a higher rate of COVID. Through the American Rescue Plan, we provided schools billions of dollars to implement safety measures, better ventilation, social distancing, and other measures. In March, when vaccinations were scarce, I prioritized teachers and school workers by utilizing our federal pharmacy program. Almost 90% of educators and school staff are now vaccinated. Additionally, the CDC has provided clear guidance on how all schools can safely protect the kids and bring them back to the classroom. Every student wear a mask. It's that simple. So we funded safety measures in schools, we vaccinated teachers and staff, and we can mask up our kids for further protection. Once again, there's one more thing we need to do. Get more adolescents, ages 12 and up, vaccinated now that they've been cleared. In the past week, good news, we've seen the average number of 12 to 17-year-olds getting vaccinated increase 22% per day. Today, I'm asking school districts to host one last pop-up vaccination clinic over the coming weeks for kids ages 12 and up. We're directing the federal pharmacy program to help make that happen. Parents, get your children vaccinated. You do it for so many other things right now. For kids under 12, if and when the vaccines are deemed safe for them, we'll be prepared to get the vaccines administered as quickly and as safely as possible. Look, and as we work to vaccinate more Americans, we're prepared for outbreaks in areas where there are unvaccinated people. My administration has made it clear to every governor that more federal resources are available to them. This includes deployment of surge teams composed of experts from the CDC and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the FEMA. We're going to continue to provide states with more testing, treatments, protective equipment, personnel, mobile vaccination clinics to stem the surge of the virus among the unvaccinated. The pictures of hospitals in several states overloaded with patients is unnecessary, avoidable, and tragic. You know, we'll help any health system overloaded and unable to cope with the spike in cases. We're ready to do that. Let me close with this. If you're at home and vaccinated, but anxious, or even angry, or if you're at home and unvaccinated, unbothered, and unconvinced, let's step back and see where we are. Just remember how we've emerged from a dark winter into a hopeful spring and summer. But really remember just how dark that winter was. Over 3,600 Americans were dying each and every day. And now, even with the surge among the unvaccinated, we're down to that 300 Americans a day. Significant. Millions of people were out of work, out of homes, out of hope, and going hungry. Remember those long lines? People in their automobiles waiting for a box of food to be put in their trunk? Experts and pundits said we couldn't get the vaccines. And even if we could get the vaccines, we couldn't get them in people's arms. We couldn't get them vaccinated. They predicted our economy would collapse. Remember how we stayed focused and how we went to work? In 6 months, we got 164 million Americans fully vaccinated. Because we vaccinated so many people, put in place so many safety measures, and got economic help to businesses and people most in need, our economy is recovering. More than 3 million Americans are back to work since I was sworn in. Faster job growth than any previous administration, any. We're experiencing the fastest economic growth in nearly 4 decades. The best in the world as of now. In fact, today's GDP numbers show that the first half of the year, our economy grew faster than any point in nearly 40 years. Our economy grew more in 6 months than most Wall Street forecasters expected for the entire year before we implemented our plan. And just yesterday, we announced a bipartisan infrastructure deal that's going to continue this momentum over the long term by making the most significant investment to rebuild America in nearly a century. We still have to face many challenges. We still have a lot of work to do as we readjust to a post-pandemic economy. We have the right plan. We're coming back. We just have to stay ahead of this virus. I know this is hard to hear. I know it's frustrating. I know it's exhausting to think we're still in this fight. And I know, we hope this would be a simple, straightforward line without problems or new challenges. But that isn't real life. We're coming out of the worst public health crisis in 100 years. Worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. As I told you before, I carry a card in my pocket. I hope I have it with me. I carry a card in my pocket with the number of Americans dead from COVID-19. As of today, this morning, the total deaths in the United States were 609,441. Granted, the death rate per day is way down. It's down to 400 about a day. But that's more deaths than World War I, World War II, Vietnam, 9/11, Iraq, and Afghanistan wars combined. This is as tough as it gets. But we're Americans. When we get knocked down, we get back up. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's why there's no nation on earth like us. And we're prepared like never before. We have the tools to save lives, to keep our economy growing and growing and going. After the past 6 months, following the science, we know we can dramatically lower the cases in this country. We can do this. We brought our economy back to life and we kept it going. We know we can send our kids back to school. We know we can beat this virus. We can do this. We all just have to do our part. My fellow Americans, this nation has never failed. We have come together as the United States of America. So I say to all those who are unvaccinated, please get vaccinated. And to the rest of America, this is no time to be despondent or let our guard down. We just need to finish the job with science, with facts, with the truth. Together as Americans, we're going to be able to beat this. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Mr. President, why do vaccinated people still need to mask? Mr. President.
How long do you think it might be necessary to wear a mask, and at what point do you think people might have to have a booster shot?
I said in my talk, the booster shot is not needed now. It is possible that it'll be needed later. I don't know. The science hasn't dictated that yet. And the first part of your question?
I think people might have to wear a mask again.
Well, if you notice, a lot of places people don't have to wear masks. Let's get that straight. Places where people have gotten vaccinated, where we have a high vaccination rate, people do not have to wear masks at all. Like some of you were with me yesterday when I was up in Lehigh Valley. Didn't have to wear a mask there. Don't have to mask if you come home to Delaware with me. I know you love doing that. But you don't have to wear a mask. The places people are probably going to have to wear masks in those communities where the high rate of unvaccinated stays high and they don't move. They don't move to getting vaccinated. But I think you're going to find the patience of businesses, the patience of a lot of other people running thin. Because the fact is, if you had high vaccination rates, we wouldn't be in this spot right now. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, Mr. President, will this set up an American workplace for federal workers and private sector that really is the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated? And is that a pressure you're trying to harness now?
Well, no, I'm not. Look, what I'm trying to do is keep people safe. I mean that sincerely. So, if in fact you're unvaccinated, you present a problem to yourself, to your family, and to those with whom you work. Because as pointed out, I was asked a question about why would people who have already been vaccinated get it? Well, you got anywhere from 2 to 3% on average, the last study done, that can still get COVID. They don't get very sick. They don't get hospitalized. It's not serious, but they can catch it. And the concern is they may be able to pass it on. And so that's all being studied right now. But it's
I'm going to end this right now on this note of what he's talking about for conscientious time's sake. The fact of the matter is, we're dealing with something that by and large we've never dealt with before. Who's to say what the future holds towards it even mutating or migrating into something even different than what it already is? There is no guarantees in life. That's the reason why it's become essential. It's become imperative that no matter who you are, where you are, you must have a relationship with the Heavenly Father through the Son, Jesus Christ. That if you do not make it in the bodily form, in which according to the Bible, it's appointed to all men once to die and then the judgment. So according to the Bible, we're all going to die one way or the other, either through natural causes or unnatural causes. But the main thing is to have a constant relationship with God. We want to thank you and good luck to all of us. And once more, shalom. Shalom and